Let's talk about the hidden gap in your marketing data. It's that little blind spot that costs you a fortune because, well, your ad platforms are basically flying blind, optimizing in the dark. So I want to start with a really simple question for you. Is your ad tracking working? I mean, you've got the pixels installed, right? Your dashboards are showing numbers, campaigns are running. Everything seems fine, but are you really sure? Because I gotta tell you, what I see every single day in real world audits tells me there's a pretty good chance it's not. And this right here gets to the absolute heart of the problem. There's a saying that just sums it all up. Installed and working correctly are two completely different things. And that space between them, that's your tracking blind spot. So let's unpack what this blind spot actually is. It's not just some technical glitch. No, it's a fundamental mindset problem that's kind of a hangover from a much simpler time in digital marketing. This slide really shows you why this problem is so common. A lot of us are still operating with that old universal analytics mindset. Remember that? You could just track a thank you page URL, call it a goal, and you were pretty much good to go. But today, I mean, we're living in this complex world of event-based tagging, consent mode, server-side tracking. It's a whole different ballgame. In that gap, the one between what you think your setup is tracking and what your ad platforms actually receive, that's not just a data discrepancy. That's literally where your ad budget goes to die. Your campaigns are optimizing based on garbage. Okay, let me show you a real world example from an audit. Seriously, I see some version of this story almost every week, and it is the perfect example of why you can't just assume your tracking is fine. So a new client comes to us, they just had their tracking updated by their last agency, and their main ad spend, their lifeblood, is Google Ads. And they were absolutely convinced that their conversions were tracking just fine. I mean, why wouldn't they be? Their dashboards had numbers in them, the graphs went up and to the right. On the surface, it looked like everything was working perfectly. But the second we started debugging, oh man, we found a complete mess. For just a single conversion, we saw 6 different GA4 events firing, plus 4 separate metapixel events. It was a classic case of just over tagging, a huge red flag that there's no real strategy behind the setup. After digging through all that noise, how many Google Ads conversion tags did we find? The one platform they were pouring all their money into. A big fat zero, nothing. Their campaigns were flying completely blind. Okay, that's the scary part. But listen, there is a methodical, clean way to fix this. And it's not about adding more tags, it's about being way smarter with way fewer. Let's take a look at what a professional setup is supposed to look like. Here's the before picture for another client. Their setup had spiraled out of control to over 250 individual tags. It was just this tangled mess of client-side, server-side tags, all layered on top of each other with zero documentation. And no surprise, their campaign performance was all over the place. So what we do is implement a method we call OTT RTA. It's a bit of a mouthful, but it stands for one tag to rule them all. And it's a really simple 3-step process. First, you audit everything, then you consolidate. Instead of having dozens of tags for one action, you build a single dynamic one. And third, you implement that smart tag using lookup tables. They're basically just rules that let the tag adjust itself on the fly. It's about having a strategy, not just slapping on more code. And the result? We took that absolute mess of 250 tags and we replaced it with just 15 clean, documented, and fully functional tags that gave them way more accurate data. The ad campaigns themselves didn't change at all, just the quality of the data feeding them. And you know what? Performance stabilized almost overnight. So how do you know if your setup is clean like that after picture or chaotic like the before? Well, you have to ask the right questions, whether it's of your team or your agency. Let's go through the questions that cut right to the chase. Start with this one. Just flat out ask, can you show me an example of how you document a client setup? Look, Documentation is the number one sign of a methodical, professional process. If you get a blank stare or some messy spreadsheet, you've got a problem. No documentation means no visibility and zero accountability. Next, ask about consent mode. How do you handle consent mode in both its basic and advanced forms? This is not some optional feature anymore, people. It is a core requirement for Google's ad platform. If they can't answer this clearly and with confidence, they are not up to date, and your tracking is at risk, period. And finally, you got to get technical. Ask them, what does your approach to data layer management look like? A vague answer here is a massive red flag. You want to hear them talk about event by event verification of values, of product IDs, of data formatting. This is where the accuracy of your tracking is either won or lost. So after seeing the 0 tag setups and the 250 tag messes, the only real question left is this one: what's hiding in your setup?